Hey guys, today we are going to do our macromolecule doodle notes. I have it showing you the entire page right now. If you would like to pause it and go ahead and write everything down, I think it may be easier. And then my hand won't be in the way, and then I can walk you through it whenever you finish. So I'm going to bring this a little bit closer, make it a bit easier to see, hopefully. The first topic that we're going to cover is carbohydrates. I have this page set up where we are going to talk our way through the elements, monomers, polymers, function, and what defines these macromolecules. So the elements that make up carbohydrates are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The monomer of carbohydrates are monosaccharides. This means one sugar, simple sugars, and an example is glucose. The polymer, or many parts of carbohydrates, are called polysaccharides, many sugars. These are more complex sugars like cellulose or starches. Starches are in things like potatoes and rice. We use carbohydrates as a quick source of energy. They provide us with 4 kilocalories per gram of energy. Plants also use them for structure. So for example, this polysaccharide cellulose is what provides plants with structure. Now, I say that this is a quick source of energy. If you have ever heard of carb loading before doing some sort of strenuous activity like maybe running or playing a sport, maybe football or something like that, or pasta loading, people will eat a whole bunch of carbs through things like bread or pastas to fill up on carbohydrates so that they have a quick burst of energy. Now, if you don't use all of the carbohydrates that you eat, they will turn into fats. Carbohydrates can be defined by 3 different things. For one, all carbohydrates are going to end in ose. So glucose, cellulose. Starch, there's another name for it. It's not necessarily just called starch. But anyways, these will be found in a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. By this I mean, I'm actually going to add C6H12O6. This is glucose. When I say 1 to 2 to 1 ratio, that means for every 1 carbohydrate, there are double the amount of hydrogens, or 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. So 1 to 2 to 1. If you were to reduce this, you would see 1 to 2 to 1. They also have a ring structure. So they're going to look like this. They're going to have like these little ring shapes. And these two are joined together by a hydrogen bond. So this one ring is a monomer. The 2 rings joined together by the hydrogen bond is a polymer. Lipids are made up of the elements carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. They are a glycerol and fatty acid tails. These are good for long-term energy. We also use, we and other organisms use this for insulation. So for example, polar bears live in cold places. They have lots of insulation called blubber. That is a bunch of lipid. Bears also, when bears get ready to go into hibernation, they eat a bunch of food to pack on a whole bunch of fat. They're using that fat to sustain them throughout their hibernation, and in some places to keep them warm. So they're using it for long-term energy and insulation. Lipids have hydrophobic tails and hydrophilic heads. This will become more apparent when we talk about the cell membrane, but for now just remember, hydrophilic head, the head is okay with touching water. The tails are hydrophobic. They don't want any part of being in water. There are 2 types of fats, saturated and unsaturated. Saturated fats are bad because they don't have double bonds. This means that they can pack together really easily, and saturated fats can cause heart disease and other things because they will clog your arteries. Unsaturated fats are termed good fats. These contain double bonds, When they have double bonds, it makes them space out a bit more almost, so they can't get packed really closely together and clog your arteries like the saturated fats do. Next are, let's see if we can move this for you. Next are proteins. Proteins are made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sometimes sulfur. So people that have really curly hair have more sulfur in their proteins than do people with straighter hair. Fun fact. The monomer of proteins are amino acids. When a bunch of amino acids join together, so each of these circles is an amino acid. When they join together, they make the polymer, a polypeptide chain. So they're called polypeptide chains because the amino acids are joined together with peptide bonds. So many peptide bonds makes this chain. And that's just another word for protein. These work really well as building blocks in our body. So proteins are used for building bone and muscles and hormones. They give us about 4 kilocalories of energy per gram. They're also good for enzymes. Enzymes are going to work as catalysts in our body, so they are going to lower activation energy and speed up reactions, and we'll get to that later. These can be defined by, so this is the molecular structure of a protein. They have an R group, a carboxyl group, and an amino group. So if you were to see this type of picture, this type of molecular drawing, formula drawing, then you could use this R, this COOH, and this NH2 to show that this is a protein. The last thing that we're going to talk about are nucleic acids. These are made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. The monomer are nucleotides. So this is a nucleotide. These are used for energy storage. They are storing genetic information. They provide no energy. These are going to be things like DNA and RNA and also ATP, which is the energy that our bodies use. These are categorized or defined by this nucleotide, which can be broken down to different groups. There is a 5-carbon sugar, a phosphate, and a nitrogenous base. I normally refer to this as the house with the garage with the pool. So you keep all of the sweets inside the house, that's your sugar. P for pool is phosphate, and then the nitrogen is your little garage over here. Alright? Oh, I would like to also mention, I think I missed it, 9 kilocalories per gram for lipids. Lipids provide the most energy of all of these. So lipids have the most energy. Carbohydrates and proteins have the similar amount of energies. Nucleic acids have none. If you were, let's say you were stranded out in the woods and you burned through your carbohydrates, then you would burn through all of your lipids, and then your body would start using all of its proteins, so its muscles and other things like that that you have. Okay, that is all. Thanks guys, bye.